presented by Chase Sapphire. I'm Mark Olson. I write about the movies for the LA Times, and we're here today with the cast and some of the filmmakers for Brittany Runs a Marathon. So please join me now in welcoming everybody up to the stage. We're going to have the director of the film, Paul Downs-Colazo. From the cast, we have Jillian Bell. Yeah. Lil Rel Howery. Utkarsh Ambudkar. And producers from the film, Matthew Plouffe and Margot Hand.
I always get so nervous that this is the moment everything is going to just collapse, you know? That it's going to go viral.
That we're going to say something.
And then we're going to be like, and I was so moved by the script, and then just fall out of these seats.
Yeah. I hate sitting in these.
You're doing great. You look great and confident.
Thank you so much.
I don't think your mic is on, though.
That's probably best.
How are you doing today, Mark?
I'm good. How about you guys? Now, you had your first screening last night, the premiere. How did that go?
It was great. I thought it was good.
What else? It was amazing. The reaction was great, and we're all really pleased with it. Honestly, the most amazing part was women who came up to me afterwards, very thankful and emotional about the film, and that was really incredible to go through.
And men. Like there was both women and men coming up and just saying, I relate to that experience, or that's happened to me, or I'm a runner and I appreciate this movie being made. Or women saying, I haven't seen a woman like that, her story told. I related to that, and that's why I'm in this.
Well, Paul, maybe to get us started, you can talk a little bit about the sort of the origins of the story and the saga of the real Brittany.
Yeah, so the movie's inspired by my real-life best friend. I like to think of it as a love letter to her. We were living together in our late 20s, and we were, it's that time in life where you're trying to figure out, like, well, how is this going, my life, this thing I call my life? Is it going the way I want it to go? Is there more I'm expecting from myself, or should I be expecting more from myself? And she decided to make a change, and she really took life by the horns and went for it. And watching her struggle and begin to dream and begin to hope and begin to shift what she expected from herself was touching and inspiring and brutal and painful. And there was a lot of disappointment along with her triumph, and I wanted to capture that in a film. I thought it was a really relatable story, and when I started thinking about movies and what kind of movie I wanted to make, I had this realization that I've never seen a woman who goes on a story like this, on a journey like this, treated with dignity and respect. Usually people who are messes are treated as like hilarious sidekicks that we all laugh at and not laugh with, or there's no pathos to their humor. And so I wanted to start with this icon of a hot mess, fat sidekick party girl, and slowly zoom in on her and start to understand her as a three-dimensional character.
And Jillian, can you talk a little bit about what it was that spoke to you about the script when you first got it? Were there things you related to about the character of Brittany?
Absolutely. That's why I wanted to play her. I read her and I was like, I am her. People I know are her. And I just feel like I've never seen that story, like you said before. And I was both very invested immediately. I wanted to play her and protect her, especially when we started shooting. Before that, we had many conversations where we wanted to be on the same page about what we were saying as a whole, what the movie was about, the motivations of all the characters, and then once we started shooting, especially in the early stages of the film, I was very protective of her. I wanted to make sure that people were laughing with her. There were no jokes at her expense, and ultimately, I wanted to see this film. I wanted to be in the audience and watch this, and I got incredibly protective of wanting to play her because I had experienced so many things that she had experienced.
And one of the things I like so much about the movie is that it's just so well-rounded for all the characters. I think especially the relationship of Rel with your character's relationship to the character of Brittany is really exciting and one that I haven't really seen on screen before. Can you talk a little bit about your character?
Yeah, I mean, that's Paul, man. He did a great job of writing this really, and it's very interesting because even when you look at the age difference between Demetrius and Brittany, and the sacrifice Demetrius did because he felt like that family took him in. So that's basically his family, and he would do anything for his sister slash daughter. He's just the big whatever he is. He's just the older guy who protects his sister and who believes in her. And I thought that was very interesting. Even when Brittany has this big blow up and she's mad, and he let it happen. All right, calm down, okay. And then now we'll talk. And I just thought that was just beautiful, man. And that's why I wanted to do this movie, because of the heart in the script. And Brittany's character relates to a lot of us, man. And just, I like how real the route was. Sometimes in movies, when people are going through those type of routes, it's kind of like, I don't know, it can get kind of watered down and don't take the real steps of it where, yeah, it could be happy. You can get bitter. You will be upset. It could be, and I thought that was brilliant. And Demetrius is just dope. This is one of my favorite characters I've played so far. Just this father figure guy who really loves her, and like, and he didn't mind checking her too. Like, I hear you, and I know you upset, but here's the truth. And you're gonna listen to me because you know I've done nothing but sacrifice and made sure you was okay throughout your life. So I don't know. I love Demetrius as a character.
And Utkarsh, did you feel the same way for your character? In that, I think, just like Jillian was saying with Brittany, he seems kind of one way at first, and the movie kind of reveals him to be something else. He's sort of shady when we first meet him, and then he becomes
Shady.
and then he becomes much more sort of he's like falsely living in someone else's home, and then he
Oh, yes. Yeah,
and then he becomes much more sweet and supportive.
yes, fair enough. Just to piggyback on Rel, that's all Paul. I mean, what he's done. We just talked this morning. Like, I didn't even see it because as actors, we sort of embody these roles. I don't think Jaren is shady. I think he's, just taking advantage of a great situation. And as an actor, that's my job, is to love my character and sort of embody who I am. And Paul had the wherewithal to sort of set up these real emotional movements, these beginning, middle, and ends to these characters, to every relationship. I think each of us is introduced as the stereotype that you guys think we are. As audiences, we all do. You see like the slacker dude who's may or may not break her heart. He'll Hugh Grant her Bridget Jones. You know what I mean? And then you see Rel, and all of us sort of come with these societal and cultural ideas of what these people who look like us are supposed to give you as an audience. And Paul takes that and turns it on his head. And the interpersonal relationships that we get to explore as actors are things in this movie that I think I can say none of us have had the opportunity to explore before. And to do it in a way where we're not like, oh, the brown dude is doing something different, or like there's a interracial relationship, or, Brittany's not like what we've seen, but that he so seamlessly weaved these life stories in a way that feels nuanced and rich and real and true to today's time is a gift. Really, bro. You did such a phenomenal job for a first-time writer and director. So it was a real pleasure.
And now, Paul, can you talk a little bit? You have a background as a playwright, and this is your first feature film. What was it that made you kind of want to make that transition to filmmaking, and why not even just write this as a play?
It wasn't like it was the story, and the story dictated the medium. And because I was watching my friend go on this epic journey that had scope and that had a real monster at the end that she needed to slay, which was both herself and this enormous race. It just lent itself to the medium. And so I'd never written a movie. I honestly didn't even like movies until I was in my early 20s. And it wasn't until I had fallen in love for the first time that I understood why movies were good. Before that, I was like, I know how this is going to end. This is stupid. Just like completely shut off from my heart. And then when I understood the romanticism of films and getting swept away in them, and I suddenly had access to those emotions, which was, a few years before writing this, I could understand the grand nature of a film. And so my love for Brittany and this journey she went on just felt like it needed to be cinematic and big and sort of, and also movies have a way of reaching more people than plays do. And part of what we all set out to do with this film was hopefully let people feel seen, make people feel seen, make them feel heard, and inspire them. And I wanted to reach as many people as possible in doing that.
And now, Matthew, Margot, especially both of you are very experienced producers, and in working with a first-time filmmaker, is there anything that you kind of have to change up in how you're working or what you're doing when you're working with somebody who's making their first film?
Well, because I worked with Paul to develop the script and was sort of in early, I had, frankly, the great fortune of watching Paul turn from playwright to filmmaker, which is, as he just articulated, it's a long journey. And you know, when I met him, he hadn't written a screenplay, so we were talking about what a movie is, and he just pitched one of the most obvious movie ideas, frankly. When I remember being in the room going like, well, that is a movie. And I remember hearing like, you know, it's Rocky for my little sister, it's Rocky, and it became Rocky for me, and it became Rocky for everybody. I happen to be a Rocky fan. Then going, well, we're gonna figure out how to make Rocky with Paul. The true story is after the requisite 15,000 drafts, when he came and said, I want to direct this, I said, no way. And then he convinced me in a really magical, you know, cinematic way. And then in terms of the actual production of the film, it was really about giving him the support that he needed. We had an incredible cast and crew. And with a first-timer, it's just about making sure that we can light the way for him. To be totally frank, Paul's vision was so clear and so well articulated so early on. For us, there was a degree to which it was easy. We just needed to provide the path.
Yeah, and I think a lot of first-time filmmakers, you know, their insecurity makes them unable to kind of take help from people, and Paul was the opposite. He wanted the very best people around him to make sure that he could, you know, the story meant so much for him, he just wanted it done properly. So he wanted the best DPs that we could get, the best production designers we could get, and, you know, Matt and our job was to give that to him, and, you know, the movie turned out great.
They gave me
nailed it.
They gave me the perfect balance that I was looking for of support and space. Space to go into my mess and come up with something that I wanted to follow from my heart, and the support I needed to make that real.
And Jillian, now, I don't know how many, if you get a lot of scripts sent your way that deal with sort of issues of women's self-image and particularly with body image, or what was it about the way that Paul handled this in the script that you particularly sort of like appealed to you and that you liked?
I moved to LA when I was 18 and tried to be an actress, and it took a while. And everything, once I started getting into TV projects or films, everything sent to me had to do with it. I think that people want to put you in a box, especially in this industry. And there was a couple projects I did that related to that, and then I was sort of like, I don't really want to address it anymore because I don't think it should be an issue. I think that, especially little girls, I want them to watch me in movies. Maybe not yet. A lot of them are R-rated, but to see a woman like me and think she's just a normal girl, and also that she's worthy of love. I feel like I've been sent a lot of scripts of women that have body image issues or should have because they look like me and they live with 18 cats. And I know that's like a funny joke, but seriously, it's like they live with their cats and they don't have a love life. And this script was the exact opposite of that. It gave this someone who looks like me, which is beautiful, by the way, and worthy of love, mother effers, a real story to tell, and not one that doesn't shy away from the realities of what happens sometimes when you decide to make a big change in your life, especially a physical change. It's a myriad of things and emotions, and it's a big journey. But I related to it so wholeheartedly.
And then can you talk about the actual sort of running and the sort of transformation that the character has to go through in the film? I don't know if you were a runner sort of going into the project. What was
No.
So what was that part of the process like?
Intense. I wanted to really jump in. I talk about I've been, I have experienced the mental and emotional side of Brittany's journey, but not the physical. And so I wanted to do that, and they did not ask me to do that, but I decided to train and start running and eating healthier, and I ended up losing 40 pounds because I wanted to have the exact journey of the character. Yeah, it was very intense. I got a couple of trainers, and one specifically trained runners for marathons, and he was teaching me, how you run when you first start running, and how you run when you're more of a professional runner. And it was a very intense experience, but it was one I do not regret.
And Paul, can you talk a bit more just about the casting of the film? As both Rel and Utkarsh were saying, that you gave actors roles that maybe they don't always get offered, and also you were able to allowing them to show sides of themselves they don't often get to show on screen. How sort of conscious was that in the casting process of the film?
That was intentional in the writing of the character. In the casting, we started with Jillian, and then from there it was building around her. And honestly, when I met Rel, his part didn't exist. When he had such a incredible, sympathetic, empathetic, surprising understanding of Brittany as a character and the movie and what we were doing, that I was not expecting from our interaction, and was just amazed and grateful for. And as we were talking about the character, he was saying things where I was like, well, that needs to be in the movie, and you should be saying that. So there was a different father figure in the film that I pivoted and rewrote for Rel once we met, just because I was getting goosebumps talking to him about the script. And with Utkarsh, I mean, he sent in a tape, and it was great. It was just amazing, and we went to college together, but he didn't know me, but I knew him. I found out, and in casting him, I wasn't trying to subvert what people thought of him, but he embodied the character so well. And the thing that the movie's doing is we're taking this person we think we know, and we're sort of shifting how we view that person. And what happens to Brittany over the course of the film is she's taking these people that she's putting in boxes, and she's shifting how she sees them. And so we're seeing them through Brittany's eyes, and so our experience of Brittany shifts, and our experience of who she's experiencing shifts with her. And that's sort of the design, is that it's like throughout the thing there's a transformation in everybody and the way we see everybody.
And now, what is that conversation like when you realize that you didn't quite know each other in college?
I mean, college, come on, Paul. Had a lot of things going on. Got a lot of dorm parties. It's a blur, and I think he forgave me for that. Yeah. But I went to school with Brittany as well, who's part of the movie. Oh. Yeah. And inspired the movie. But Paul speaks to it, the fact that he gave me a chance. Like, to hear that I earned it is really nice. That you weren't like, well, we got to get a brown guy, and Aziz is taken, and these other dudes are all booked up. Grab that Mindy Project kid and let's go. But to be able to play with Jillian, and for it not to be, a magnifying glass does not put on this character's ethnicity at all. There's one great joke that Paul wrote, which I love, which I'm not going to give away if you haven't seen the movie. But other than that, we're just existing and sort of learning who each other is, and falling in love. And I mean, that's really what drew me to that character. As a South Asian actor, to play a romantic lead in a movie is still a premium. It is unusual. I don't want that to be true, and it's revolutionary what these people have done. I wish it wasn't revolutionary, but it is. And the fact that I was given this opportunity, and that Jillian made me look so lovable is...
You did that on your own, boo.
Okay, I'll take it. No, we had such a good time together, and it was so refreshing and so fun to be able to play a character with a beginning, middle, and end, and not somebody behind like a computer screen being like, Vin Diesel, go find the pretty lady and I'll sit at the screen. The bad guy's over there. Or to be like a character who's like, asexual. You know, a lot of South Asian men are like, oh man, I get so many girls, and then it cuts to a scene and a girl walks by and like cuts him off and goes like, you're not gonna get laid. And he's like, I'm not gonna get laid, I'm a loser. It's been a great career. Really, really good for the self-esteem.
These are all the roles we play. I just have 18 cats, and,
Yeah, right?
and you're telling Vin Diesel where to go.
Yeah, right. To speak to that, like you have like you said, somebody said, I think Paul said it. You have a stage full of people who have been sidekicks, right? Who've been treated that way for a myriad of reasons, and now here we are, all getting to embody something different and new and exciting, and it's dope, dude.
And
Thanks,
dramatic.
guys.
I mean, like being funny, I think comics are underrated dramatic actors, to be quite honest with you. Robin Williams to me is still one of my favorite dramatic actors, and he's one of the silliest dudes you ever saw. Yeah, and so I think Paul did a good job of giving us an opportunity to show, our different chops, and I enjoy it. That's why I do love the scene between us, right? We've made people laugh in the movie so far, and then
Don't say too much.
Oh, I don't know who ain't seen. I don't know who ain't seen it no more. But it's a beautiful scene, and that's without saying. I guess really, I'm not. It's not necessarily a spoiler unless I do the whole scene.
Let's do it. Let's do it right now.
Unless I just start saying verbatim what I said. Because it was beautiful. As a comedian, it felt good to being able to being put in a position where the director and writer is confident that you're able to deliver such beautiful words and just in an honest way. And Paul is very emotional, so like he don't have to tell you did good. Like if you see a tear like slowly coming down his eye, you're like, oh, that was good, I guess. Somebody get Paul
The chances of me not being like, that was great, are like slim.
And Jen, was it exciting for you to be taking on some more dramatic scenes in this film as well?
Absolutely. I have never had this opportunity before, really, and I had to be so incredibly vulnerable and around a whole group of people that I was just meeting. Our crew and our cast were unbelievable. I don't know.
I don't know that any of us have really appreciated how brave. I know we've said brave, but usually when you're doing a role, you can hide behind your vulnerability behind the character's vulnerability as their journey and their process. But Jillian was legit living out part of our film that was a physical experience while we were filming. So we were filming really exposing vulnerable scenes and lines of her commentary on herself and her self-esteem and what she's worth to the world and what she's worth to herself as she was asking herself these same questions as she was going through this journey. And so she was coming to set every day just a skinless grape, just there to be vulnerable for everybody to see, and that takes courage to
I'm
be
a
that
grape.
raw.
A skinless grape.
Yeah, but walking around, I mean, just even some of the more emotional scenes, just pacing. I remember pacing in Brittany's apartment, just weeping openly, and everyone's like setting up the
like,
lights
we have 10 more minutes.
and doing all these things, and members of the crew would just walk by and be like, okay, so we're going to set up here, and just giving a little bit of support and knowing I'm here, I'm not going to interrupt what's, your process, what you're going through, but I'm still very much here for you as a human being. And that's what this story was a real human being and the raw emotions that are attached to that and the struggles that go about when you're trying to change your life in any which way. And the people who are there for you and want to be there for you. And it's a beautiful story.
How many people here have seen the movie? Anyone? So I think it's like safe to say that like Jillian, as far as a leading lady in a movie is concerned, is one of the most dynamic performers you'll see.
They're like this. I'm in a room. Some of them are clapping.
No, they are full. I mean, what you did in the movie and working with her, she's like simultaneously the funniest person I've ever worked with on camera, and is able to go to these deep, emotional, dark places with such ease. I know it wasn't easy for you, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's fluid. I think that it's just the beginning. I mean, basically, you're getting True Detective next year.
You know, he keeps saying this,
I think True
and
Detective.
I'm down. I'm down for True
Opera's
Detective,
coming.
but I don't know if it's coming.
Jillian Bell.
I think we had season 4 right here.
True Detective.
Right?
Season 4.
That would be incredible.
Let's do that.
True Detective is your scale of making it. If you're a true detective.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
It's a very big
No Law and Order SUV episode. The SVU.
I like
You know what I
SUV.
meant.
Let's do that show. What's that show about? Just drama and
I found the
cars.
Xterra.
It's just they pull it up
next
in the
question. Next question.
Now, Paul, there is sort of a practical element of this movie. It's called Brittany Runs a Marathon, so it has to take place around the New York Marathon. Was it difficult? And in fact, the movie takes place around 2 separate runnings of the marathon. Was that a challenge? Like, just from a production standpoint, what was sort of like the movie's relationship to the real marathon? Were you guys shooting during an actual marathon?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were the first non-doc to ever shoot the New York City Marathon. So it was a very cool, exciting experience. And the New York Roadrunners, who puts off the marathon each year, were hugely supportive of the film. We were lucky because the guys there were from production. One was an AD, one was a location manager, so they also understood kind of what a production would need to do on that day, but they let us operate. I mean, our DP was in heaven. We were operating huge broadcast cranes and stuff, and they gave us all that footage. And but at the same time, we had 3 units running that day, but they were 8 people units, so it was very small. And Jillian's carrying stands around and running in and out of marathons, out to the marathon, in, out. And it was very cool and emotional. But yeah, it was a very big undertaking from a production standpoint.
Paul, when you were writing, were those things you had really thought about, or was there a moment you're like, oh, right, we need a marathon?
No, well, that's where my naivete of production came in, where I was like, and then we'll shoot a marathon, and they were like, yeah.
They would be me.
Yeah, they were like, yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, as we were starting prep, I was under the impression we were just going to shoot at the marathon. I didn't think it would be a big deal. And they were like, we have to go through just some introductory meetings. Meanwhile, the stakes were super high because we weren't going to have a movie if we didn't nail that.
Let me just say, we're making this sound like it was super easy. This was producerially harrowing.
Yeah.
And
Nobody told me.
there were weeks that went by where we were going cool, and then we're just gonna shoot in the New York City Marathon, which no one's ever really done before, but we're totally gonna figure it out, and it's gonna be great, and we're gonna get all the footage that we need, and
everything.
it's just gonna make for an incredibly moving ending to the movie called Brittany Runs a Marathon, or not. And then we're gonna have to figure out a different ending, and we used to joke about different endings. So
I
Yeah,
feel
we're
like
obviously not a big studio, so if we didn't get the rights to shoot the marathon, there was no way we could recreate the New York City Marathon. So we really put our eggs in.
at
in
the
that
beginning
bag.
of shooting, it was and we are going to do something. And then everyone's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, I hope this is happening.
We nailed it though.
Forgot.
We nailed it.
We nailed it.
We nailed it though. Yeah, we did.
But again, Jen, what was it like for you on that day shooting some of the actual
I
marathon
don't
scenes?
want to talk about it too much because some people haven't seen the film. So I'll just tell you it was great.
Can I answer?
No, I don't think so. No. It's we want to save the experience of the film for people.
I will just say witnessing runners is a beautiful thing.
Well, then maybe that's a good place for us to wrap this up. If everyone can just stay, if everyone could leave, depart by the back there, and then we're going to take care of our cast here. And so everyone, for the Los Angeles Times here at the Sundance Film Festival, brought to you by Chase Sapphire, I'm Mark Olson. I thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
thank you.
I moved to LA when I was 18 and tried to be an actress, and it took a while. And everything, once I started getting into TV projects or films, everything sent to me had to do with it. I think that people want to put you in a box, especially in this industry. And there was a couple projects I did that related to that, and then I was sort of like, I don't really want to address it anymore because I don't think it should be an issue. I think that, especially little girls, I want them to watch me in movies. Maybe not yet. A lot of them are R-rated, but but to see a woman like me and think she's just a normal girl, and also that she's worthy of love. I feel like I've been sent a lot of scripts of women that have body image issues or should have because they look like me and they live with 18 cats. And I know that's like a funny joke, but seriously, it's like they live with their cats and they don't have a love life. And this script was the exact opposite of that. It gave this someone who looks like me, which is beautiful, by the way, and worthy of love, mother effers, a real story to tell, and not one that doesn't shy away from the realities of what happens sometimes when you decide to make a big change in your life, especially a physical change. It's a myriad of things and emotions, and it's a big journey. But I related to it so wholeheartedly. I wanted to really jump in. I talk about I've been, I have experienced the mental and emotional side of Brittany's journey, but not the physical. And so I wanted to do that, and they did not ask me to do that, but I decided to train and start running and eating healthier, and I ended up losing 40 pounds because I wanted to have the exact journey of the character. Yeah, it was very intense. I got a couple of trainers, and one specifically trained runners for marathons, and he was teaching me, how you run when you first start running, and how you run when you're more of a professional runner. And it was a very intense experience, but it was one I do not regret.
It was so refreshing and so fun to be able to play a character with a beginning, middle, and end, and not somebody behind like a computer screen being like, Vin Diesel, go find the pretty lady and I'll sit at the screen. The bad guy's over there. Or to be like a character who's like, asexual. A lot of South Asian men are like, oh man, I get so many girls, and then it cuts to a scene and a girl walks by and like cuts him off and goes like, you're not gonna get laid. And he's like, I'm not gonna get laid, I'm a loser. It's been a great career. Really, really good for the self-esteem.
These are all the roles we play. I just have 18 cats.
Yeah, right?
And you're telling Vin Diesel where to go.
Yeah, right. To speak to that, you have like you said, somebody said, I think Paul said it, you have a stage full of people who have been sidekicks, right? Who've been treated that way for a myriad of reasons. And now here we are all getting to embody something different and new and exciting. And it's dope, dude.